Great. Okay, so thanks everyone for joining us. I'm Mandy Henshaw, Comms and Engagement Manager for the NBN Trust. I know some of you and some of you are new faces and new names, so that's great. So thanks for taking the time to join us today. The session is going to be predominantly about the NBN Trust strategy now that we're approaching the end of the second year, and Lisa Chilton, our CEO, is going to take you through where we are with the strategy, progress we've made, and activities still to come. If you have any questions during the session, if you could type them into the chat area, please, and myself and the rest of the team will keep an eye on those and feed them back to Lisa as the session continues. We'll stop periodically just to keep on top of the questions. And then the second session will be a bit more of an open discussion. Because of the number of people that are joining us, we're going to start that continuing with the typing into the chat for questions, just so we can keep on top of it and manage it, but we'll kind of play that by ear. And if we can take open verbal questions, then we'll do so at that point. So let's kick off. I'll hand over to Lisa, and thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone, and good afternoon. It's really brilliant to see so many of you here on screen today. I'm going to share my screen, which always takes a little bit of jiggery pokery, doesn't it? So let's just get onto the right thing that I'm sharing. I think I need to swap. Can everyone now just see the full slide? Or are you seeing the slide and the next slide?
You know where the cables are?
What are you looking for?
To connect the
Seeing the full
laptop
slide,
to,
Lisa.
Great, thank you.
Full slide.
to this. Do I just take them out the back of here?
Sorry, Lisa, I've just muted everyone because we were getting background noise again, so you're now muted. You'll have to unmute yourself, sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, I am going to aim to speak for around about half a session, for about 30 minutes. But if we have questions during the session, then that might extend it a little bit longer. But we want to have plenty of time to hear from you rather than just me droning on ad nauseum. So this is the first members meeting that we've held in this format. And I thought it would be useful to give you a little bit of background in terms of what we want to achieve from the meeting and what you can expect as well. Essentially, you know, our conference, which many of you will have attended in the past, including hopefully the one in Edinburgh in November, the conference is our flagship event for the year, bringing together people and organisations from across the entire National Biodiversity Network. And it's the highlight of our year in many ways. It's an opportunity for us as a fully remote team now to all get together face to face. And it's an opportunity to meet with you and to hear of your progress, your ideas, what you've been working on, and your suggestions as well for what we can do to best provide the services that we are providing to you to make data work for nature. But it's once a year, and it isn't really enough. And so the purpose of holding an online members meeting is really to provide another point in the year when we can hear from you, and we can also share updates on where we are in terms of our delivery against our plan. The format and content are up for discussion. As I said, for this first one, it's going to be me giving a bit of an update on where we are with the strategy, and then a discussion. And there are quite a few other members of the team on the call, so they can also pitch in and answer the questions that I'm unable to, and lead on the areas that they're responsible for. But we would welcome feedback and suggestions. This is sort of a first attempt at doing this, and we're keen to adapt to your needs and your views. But there will also be other opportunities to engage with the Trust, and particularly the strategic direction of the NBN Atlas. And I'll say a little bit more about those as we go through the session. So for today's meeting, it's really just a quick update on where we are with the strategy. As Mandy said, we are coming to the end of our second year, about to enter the third year of our strategy. And so that seemed like a good point to update you on where we've got to, those areas where we think we're progressing well, those areas where we feel we haven't made as much progress as we would have liked, or where there may be additional focus required, and to get your input to that as well. So the strategy then, hopefully you are all familiar with our 5-year strategy, 2022 to 2027, which we launched in May 2022. And it's available on our website, and we do have hard copies available as well if you would like one. But essentially,
Lisa,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you. We've just had a little comment at the start. Could you tip your screen down a bit so we can see all of your friendly face?
Am I being too short for my camera? Is
That's better.
I need to sit up straight, like my mum always told me. Okay, so that's our strategy. And the strategy set out a new, or perhaps just newly crafted, vision and mission for the Trust. So our vision is that nature is thriving everywhere in all its diversity. And our mission is, of course, making data work for nature. And we passionately believe that together we can reverse the biodiversity crisis. We have to believe it, don't we? And our sights are set on a future in which the natural world has bounced back to health and is delivering all the fantastic things that we expect and benefit from. Under the strategy, we have 4 strategic ambitions. And I should have said, actually, all of the photos that are included in this presentation are from iNaturalist UK. And I thought I would, they're all very recent sightings because I wanted to inject a bit of springtime feeling into the call. I don't know about you, but certainly around here, things are just starting to feel a little bit spring-like. I've heard skylarks singing for the first time. I've seen my first bee, and it's all starting to get a little bit spring-like and exciting. So I wanted to bring some of that to the conversation today as we think about the year ahead. So our 4 strategic ambitions are that the NBN Atlas is the go-to place for sharing and accessing UK biodiversity data, that biodiversity data is providing the evidence needed for nature's recovery, that citizen science is valued, supported and expanded as a major source of biodiversity data, and that the NBN, our network, is a well-connected and highly collaborative community with united voice on key issues. Now, that's quite a lot. And on top of that, we have the underpinning commitments, because we won't achieve any of the strategic ambitions if we don't have financial sustainability, so securing the future of the NBN Trust by growing and diversifying our income. If we don't ensure the Trust is a great place to work, if we can't retain and attract new staff, and if in doing that, we can't drive forward equality, diversity and inclusion in the biodiversity data sector. And I'm sure you're all aware from recent initiatives and media coverage that the nature conservation sector is one of the least diverse sectors across the UK. And we feel a responsibility to help change that. And then finally, of course, we need to minimise the Trust's environmental impacts and work towards net zero for carbon. And we see these 3 commitments as underpinning everything that we need to achieve in terms of delivering the strategic ambitions as well. But we're only a small team. We have grown and changed a lot in the last 12 months, but we're still only small. And here I've made some attempt, although it's a bit sort of rough and ready, to apportion our team between the different strategic ambitions and the sustainability commitments. So ambition 1 is about the NBN Atlas, and some of you will already have met Helen, our lead developer, Keith, our senior developer, and as of this week, we now have a 3rd developer, Joe, who has joined us thanks to support from Natural England through the NBN Atlas Accelerator project, which I will come on to a little bit later. Then ambition 2 is about making data work for nature, really. It's about ensuring that biodiversity data is providing the evidence needed for nature's recovery. There's necessarily a lot of overlap with ambition 1, but within this frame, I have put Will Millard, who is our biodiversity data officer, and Rianne, who is our NBN Atlas support officer. And many of you will have been in touch with Rianne and Will in the last few months, I'm sure. We then have Mike, Christine, Bethany, and Emily, who are the Better Biodiversity Data Project team. So their work is focused on Scotland. Christine is the Partnerships Officer, Mike is the Programme Manager, Emily is the Digital and Data Services Manager, and Bethany is the Business Analyst, working on the new digital system that's being provided for biological data in Scotland. And then we have someone known only as M. It's a sneak preview that we have just made an offer and it has been accepted, although we've got a few details to work through, for the Biodiversity Data Manager position. So those of you who knew Sophie, our previous data manager, we have effectively split her role, and we have Will, and then we will have our new person who we'll be able to announce to you very soon, who'll be working on the more strategic side of things. So that's ambition 2. Ambition 3 is the citizen science ambition. And really, we only have Giselle, our iNaturalist UK officer, within this area, although all of our work ultimately comes back to citizen science because that's where the majority of the data comes from. But that one is all about our role in citizen science, supporting and celebrating the recording community and driving forward the use of, or supporting the use of iNaturalist UK. Then ambition 4 is around the network. And I think many of you will know Mandy, who is our comms and engagement manager, and Porba, who was our comms officer, who worked tirelessly to keep the network connected and up to date, and of course, organising the conference and the awards. And then finally, those sustainability commitments, keeping the whole show on the road and making sure that we are also driving progress in the organisation. Sarah, who is our finance and business manager, Maurice, our finance and business officer, and myself as chief exec. So we have grown in the last 12 months, but some of that, or a large part of that, is through project funds, through the Better Biodiversity Data Project and the Accelerator Project. Our core team is still pretty small, and it's a lot to be keeping all of this on the road. But we do our very best, and we're really keen to engage you in making sure that we're delivering the best possible value and making data work as hard as possible for nature. So a little bit more about our ambitions and the progress that we've made against them. So first of all, ambition 1, the NBN Atlas as the go-to place. Our objectives over the 5-year period of the strategy include enhancing the performance and stability of the Atlas. And of course, we started the strategy period in a little bit of a shaky place in terms of the performance of the Atlas, developing new functionality and training resources, removing barriers to data sharing, embracing new data sources such as eDNA, and fostering collaboration around data sharing and data impact and visualization. So key projects and achievements within this ambition. First of all, the NBN Atlas Fit for the Future project, which you will have heard about at various times over the last couple of years. And this was a root and branch upgrade of the NBN Atlas. I say was, we're just in the closing stages of it now, recognising that the NBN Atlas had sort of drifted from the source code, the Atlas of Living Australia, on which it was built. And as a result, we weren't able to fully participate in the international community of living atlases, including with the Atlas of Living Australia that started it all. And we were not able to benefit from all the great work that was going on within that partnership in terms of enhanced functionality on the Atlas, enhanced security, and so on. So Helen and Keith have been taking us through a programme of upgrading the Atlas, and we are nearly there. And hopefully you yourselves will have experienced enhanced improvement. And when we get to the end of the project, that will then also open the door for much greater focus on enhancing the functionality of the Atlas going forward. Amazon Web Services also supported us with a well-architected review, which when they first said that to me meant nothing at all. But essentially, they reviewed the whole infrastructure of the NBN Atlas and gave us really important advice and also supported some work to improve the security, cybersecurity of the platform, to improve the cost optimization, making sure we're getting best value for the servers that the Atlas depends upon, and lots of other really useful work as well. The relationship with AWS has really advanced as well, and we were one of the first recipients of the Imagine project, Imagine grants, which launched in the UK last year. And so we have funds to deliver effectively the last phase of the Fit for the Future project, which is to migrate to the new Atlas of Living Australia data processing pipeline, which will greatly accelerate the rate at which we can get new data onto the Atlas. So rather than data processing once a month, which currently takes us a whole week to do, we'll be data processing more regularly and getting that data accessible faster, which will be fantastic. We have also just kicked off the NBN Atlas Accelerator project, which is a 15-month project funded by Natural England, and now the Environment Agency have also come in as a funder, which is fantastic. And essentially recognising that for the last 2 years, we have not been able to take forward active development, new functionality, bug fixes and so on the Atlas, because we've been working through this really comprehensive upgrade. So this will help accelerate, give us new momentum to drive forward some of the key enhancements that we know that you, our community, are calling for. And that includes things like access controls, improving the mapping functionality, redeveloping the spatial portal, various other things as well. And then finally, so access controls, we have actually developed the first release of the access controls, but we're holding fire until we've got the full new data team on board, because we hope that that will represent the removal of one of the key barriers to data sharing across the UK. And then we have also shared the first eDNA dataset on the NBN Atlas. And obviously this is an area that's evolving really fast, and we're really keen to engage with others to look at the parameters, the data, the metadata around that, and how we make sure that what we're doing is most valuable and most effective. But the areas that we think need more focus and resources in terms of commitments we made in the strategy include data sharing from business and from academia. So from consultancies, data perhaps relating to biodiversity net gain, to development control, to environmental land management schemes, local nature recovery strategies. There is more data being collected all the time within the private sector, and it would be fantastic to help open that up. But equally, academia, we know that academic use of the NBN Atlas is huge, but we're not seeing a flow of data from academia into the Atlas, and that's something we really want to work on. Mandy, have we had any questions yet?
Yes, we've just got one, Lisa. So it's from Michael Hassel. I remember some years ago that the Atlas platform based on the ALA open source framework was being adopted by several countries. What is the current status of such atlases worldwide? That's it.
Last time I checked, and it may have evolved since then, I believe there were 23 living atlases. Most of those are at a national level, but I think some of them are at a regional or subnational level. But certainly there are around 20 countries now that have a platform based on the Atlas Living Australia. That is growing, but on top of that, GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility, have provided their own platform, which doesn't have the full functionality of a living atlas, but which for some countries, particularly those that have less resource in terms of biodiversity data than we do in the UK, for some that is a suitable alternative to going down the route of having a whole living atlas at their disposal. So now it's splitting out a bit in terms of GBIF and the living atlas communities, but still growing, which is great to see.
That's all, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Okay, moving on to the next strategic ambition, so around data providing the evidence for nature's recovery. So our objectives here were around delivering the Better Biodiversity Data Project for Scotland, taking forward recommendations from the Geospatial Commission's report on the species data pathway for England. If you're not familiar with that report, it came out in 2021. It was a report to the Cabinet Office from the Geospatial Commission, and it made, well, first of all, flagged just how fragmented data flows still are across the UK. I don't think anyone would contest that if we were starting again with a clean sheet of paper, we probably wouldn't end up with what we have now. But it was making a wide range of really powerful suggestions about how to enhance access to biodiversity data. And we believe that a lot more work needs to be done to drive that work forward. To support partners in Wales, Northern Ireland, the Isle of Man, as well as England and Scotland, to promote fair data and to strengthen the flow of data both from the national level to the local level and from national to global via GBIF. So how are we doing? Better Biodiversity Data Project is progressing well. It's a really complex project to try and bring together all of the record centres and recording groups across Scotland into a single consortium that can deliver national level data products and services for Scotland, and also to develop the digital platform that all of that depends on. But the project is progressing well. Another win, which we can take some credit for, is that the UK has resumed full membership of GBIF, the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. UK had been only a sort of partial affiliate member for a few years, which meant that we were not really gaining all the benefits and also were not paying our way. And so now, following a concerted campaign with other NBN members, we're delighted that the UK has resumed full membership, and we're actively engaging with the other members of the UK delegation to ensure that we get the most from being a member of this global partnership as well. And we had a really interesting collaboration last year with the Alan Turing Institute, which was funded by Natural England, where we started to, I guess, kind of go under the bonnet of the NBN Atlas a bit and get a better understanding ourselves of the data that we hold and where there are gaps, whether those gaps are because the data doesn't exist or because it's not flowing to the Atlas or other reasons. And I think one of the things that we really want to develop as an organisation is expertise in the data we hold. So we're not just sort of holding the vessel into which you all pour data or from which you extract data, but we ourselves have a better understanding of the data that's there, where there are gaps, what the reasons for those gaps are, and telling the stories from that data ourselves as well. What we think needs more focus is data licensing. So particularly since Sophie left and we've had newer staff, so Rianne and Will and myself kind of scratching our heads over some of the data licensing questions that come in, I think we really need to be working together as a network to build more of a shared understanding of data licensing and what that means for our sector and how those needs are changing in light of the new and emerging needs for biodiversity data. So ESG, environment, social and governance reporting, biodiversity credits, green finance, biodiversity net gain, you know, they're, rather than the data being used sort of within our closed community as it has been more in the past, there is a demand for biodiversity data in new circles, and I'm really keen to understand what that looks like, not just in terms of data licensing, but also, you know, we need to know how we as a community can engage in that in a joined up way that delivers most benefit for the sector as a whole, and of course for nature. Ambition 3 is around citizen science, and the objectives that we put forward in the strategy were around recognition for the recording community, demonstrating the impact of data and the impact of data sharing, supporting iNaturalist UK and increasing the volume, quality and impact of records, connecting with new recording apps as and when they emerge to make sure that we're bringing them into the data pathways, and working with others to sustain and grow the recording community. Key projects that are helping us move forward with this ambition include relaunching the NBN Awards for Wildlife Recording, and I know many who've contributed to Porba's work to sort of reimagine those awards and relaunch them. And then secondly, National Education Nature Park, which is a major project funded by the Department for Education and delivered by a consortium led by the Natural History Museum and the Royal Horticultural Society, and we are a partner in that. So ultimately, the project is about ensuring that every child and young person within the education system in England has experience of biodiversity and helps improve biodiversity on their school grounds or nursery grounds or college grounds. But part of that, our part of that, is firstly promoting recording in schools, utilising iNaturalist, and secondly, ensuring that the data that comes from the project across all different levels flows through to the NBN Atlas with the appropriate verification steps in place. So we're really excited about that, and if you have any questions, then Giselle, who is leading on our engagement in that project, will be able to answer them. But the areas where we need more focus and resources are around, or to work with you more closely perhaps, are around data quality and data impact. You know, we always come back to data quality. We want data to be publicly accessible, but we also need the users of the data to really understand what the quality of the data is and any caveats associated with that, so that users can make the best choices around data quality. And then impact, I feel initiatives like the State of Nature report are really, we should be in here as another milestone really for the project, because our engagement in it, they are really powerful in terms of conveying why we need biodiversity data, because those reports clearly could not happen without data. But I don't think as a community we are so good at telling the stories continuously around the impact of data, the importance of collecting data and the importance of sharing data, and we would love to work with you more closely on that. Ambition 4 is around the network, and our objectives were to target gaps in the network, to strengthen communication and engagement, to facilitate professional development and promote best practice within the biodiversity data sector, and to speak out for biodiversity data. And the key projects and achievements, well, we're really proud of our return to face-to-face conferences post-pandemic, and 2022 and 23 just such joyful and positive experiences, and it was lovely to bring you all back together again in that way. Network news continues to go from strength to strength, and if you don't already subscribe, then please do sign up. We have an NBN Trust film coming soon. We were lucky to receive funds through a programme called the Enterprise Development Programme, which is around charities developing commercial revenues and enterprise essentially. And very late in the day, they came to us and said, oh, actually, we can make a film if you like. So last week, we were out filming with some volunteers here on the Aberdeenshire coast, and then also in the Natural History Museum, talking about the importance of data and data sharing and what the Trust does. So watch this space for that. But areas where we need more focus and more resources, being more responsive to our members. I feel like in the recent past, we've not put up barriers, but we've not been as open to engagement as we might have been, largely because of resource and because of, from the Atlas point of view, because we've been going through this major upgrade, we have not had the capacity to respond to requests for new functionality or things that need fixing. And so I guess as an organisation, that's almost put us on the back foot in terms of, oh, we don't want to open the floodgates because we know we're not going to be able to deal with things. But we're in a much stronger position now with growing the team, with having our data team back up to capacity, having 3 developers for the next 12 months and hopefully beyond. And so we're all really looking forward to kind of opening that gate again and saying, look, we are here for you. We are here for the network, and we need to be able to respond to you. And then finally, we are also upping our game in terms of social media, recognising that that's how so many of us communicate these days aside from traditional channels, and making sure that we are using social media to tell those stories, those compelling stories about the importance of data, of collecting it and of sharing it. Finally, then, onto the sustainability commitments, so financial, social, and environmental. And we are delighted to be able to tell you that we have recently secured major grants from the Esme Fairbairn Foundation, the John Ellerman Foundation. I've already mentioned the support from Amazon Web Services, from Natural England, and of course from Nature Scot and the Scottish Government for the Better Biodiversity Data Project, which is fantastic news and has enabled us to grow the team and to extend our remit in some ways. In Scotland, we're doing the sort of work that we've not done before. We also had support from the Enterprise Development Programme, which enabled us to have a look at what commercial activities, trading activities we might be able to develop to support our financial sustainability. But it's still fair to say that we're a long way from being financially sustainable as an organisation. It still feels pretty hand to mouth. We're doing well. Our membership is still a really important source of income to us. We still are very reliant on the statutory nature conservation bodies and their support, and grants from trusts and foundations will never replace that. We're really fortunate that a couple of those grants from the Esme Fairbairn Foundation and John Ellerman Foundation are towards our core costs for the next 3 years, which is fantastic, but we won't get that support again. That's something you get once or twice, and then beyond that, the funding will have to be for specific projects rather than our general core costs. And so really we have the next 3 years of the strategy to drive forward initiatives that will support our longer term financial stability. And one of those is around enterprise and what sort of data products and services, development products and services we could potentially offer, bespoke data portals like the beautiful Burial Grounds portal, that kind of thing. But leveraging the skills and expertise that we have in-house to essentially bring in unrestricted income that we can use towards our core costs. So we're definitely still on that journey. Sustainability and financial sustainability remains, my number one priority still for the trust. We're doing well, but we can't rest on our laurels with that. And we welcome all opportunities to collaborate with you on projects that can help build our sustainability. We've seen a growth in the team, which is a fantastic achievement. But with a lot of that being project-based, it's something that we need to sustain if we're going to continue to advance as an organisation rather than just tread water. We have been collaborating with Wildlife and Countryside Linked on equality, diversity and inclusion, and that's been really helpful because it's something we're all as a team personally really committed to, and particularly recognising the challenges within our sector. So we're delighted to be able to do that. As a team, we prioritise health and well-being as well. It's something we talk about all the time. We talk about mental health as well as physical health and well-being, and we are working hard to ensure that, having moved to fully remote working, as we did in October, that we're really continuing to communicate as a team effectively and look after each other in order that we can also support the wider network, because we know we can't have one without the other. But what needs more focus and resources? As I've said, financial sustainability, we can never stop on that, never rest, but also net zero, because we have a commitment in there to better understand our environmental footprint and to work towards net zero. And that's been something that we haven't we've done some research, we've attended webinars and so on, but we've not sort of actively progressed that. So if that's something that anyone in the network can help and advise on, then we'd be really delighted to hear from you. So this is our team, minus Joe, who was not with us in time for this photo at the conference. We are really excited about the year ahead. We think we're at quite a pivotal point in terms of the trust journey. We've got a bit more staff capacity, we've got lots of ideas, we've got our strategy, and really importantly, we have the network and we have our membership, and we're excited about what the next 3 years of the strategy are bringing for us. But I didn't want to end without adding some things to your to-do list, if that's okay. So first of all, we would be thrilled if you would consider nominating someone or some people for the NBN Awards for Wildlife Recording 2024. Having just relaunched the awards, we're really hopeful that we'll get lots of nominations from highly deserving people across the network. And you can see the categories here. So for the first time, we've got a Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm sure all of you can think of someone that you could nominate for that award. A Verifiers Award as well for the first time, because I feel the focus has often been on the actual recording in the field and not recognising the phenomenal effort that verifiers are doing behind the scenes to improve the quality of the data within our sector. Then there's the Terrestrial Wildlife, Marine Wildlife, a Group Award, a Newcomer Award, and a Young Person's Award for recorders aged 11 to 20. And we would be thrilled if you would get nominating. It's a really simple process on our website, and we'd be delighted if you get some nominations in. Secondly, we would love it if you would share your data impact stories with Porba, comms officer, because we need all of us to be better at sharing stories about the importance of data, and we want to help with that. So if you're aware of something that you have achieved with data, whether that's something on the ground, in terms of real nature on the ground, or influencing a policy or a strategy or a decision, then please do let us know, and we're going to start actively sharing those stories. If the data has come from the NBN Atlas, fantastic, but actually all data stories, anything that's saying this is why we need data and this is the difference it can make, we'd be delighted to hear. Thirdly, I've heard from a few people lately that they didn't realise that you could join the NBN Trust as an individual. Most of our members, or historically, most of our members have been organisations, but you can also join as an individual member, and we would love to have your voice as an individual, even if the organisation that you work for is already a member. So please do consider that. And then finally, feedback and suggestions on members' meetings. What you would like, what are the key topics that you would like to hear from us on? And I would also like to add that we are planning to be more active in our stakeholder engagement in the coming year and beyond. So when we have the new biodiversity data manager in post, one of their key roles is to develop a strategy for the future of the NBN Atlas. So that will include looking at our huge backlog of potential enhancements and fixes and so on, and sifting through that, but also, given particularly since some of those have been sitting there for quite some time, going back out to data partners and to NBN Atlas users and saying, is it delivering what you want from the platform? And if not, what can we do to enhance that? So there'll be opportunities to engage in workshops and surveys around the NBN Atlas. And I'm also really keen that we organise some separate discussions, perhaps in collaboration with partners. You may already have something like this in progress, or you might be keen to work with us on it. But pinning down some of that data licensing issues and building a consensus around that, and also looking at green finance and biodiversity net gain and how we service the data needs around that, and particularly how we do that, if possible, in a collaborative way, so that we're not sort of tripping over each other to engage, but also so we're not inundated, because this is a fast growing sector. So this won't be the only opportunity to engage with us. There will be more on the way, and we'd welcome feedback and suggestions. So thank you again for joining and for listening, and we're now going to open up to a discussion. So Mandy, over to you for any questions that have appeared, and I'm just going to stop sharing my screen.
Okay, so there's one from David Hepper. Would you say something about why you promote iNaturalist over direct entry to iRecord? I can see several possible reasons, but the records from iNat received into iRecord have some well-known issues.
Thank you, David. I'm glad you asked that. We make a lot of effort to not promote iNaturalist over other platforms. But when we took iNaturalist on, and Giselle, I'll hand over to you to say a little bit more about this, we recognised that iNaturalist was growing organically. It was becoming very popular. You know, now more than 100,000 people have used it in the UK. And so we wanted to look after it and to try and nurture that community, but also work on data quality for exactly the reasons you've highlighted. So we still do direct people to other recording tools, and of course iRecord is a key one there. But by taking ownership, if you like, in inverted commas, of iNaturalist UK, we want to work with that community to drive up the quality, but also to promote it as a great sort of entry level tool. Giselle, would you like to leap in and add anything to that?
Yeah, just to add, as Lisa said, we don't promote one over the other. We always say use what you're most comfortable to use, because we want people to record and share the data. With respect to the National Education Nature Park, a decision was made to use iNaturalist, and part of that was also because of Seek by iNaturalist, which is a great way introducing children using an app and how to record and how to take a photo in a safe way where data isn't stored. So that was partly a decision on why they're using it. By being involved with the project, it also means that we can kind of control the messaging. So we will be saying to the schools that sign up in education that their data needs to be on a CC0 license, which, because it's part of a government funded project anyway, should be on an open license, that they made to make sure things like they have the actual geolocation is as accurate as possible, because if it isn't, it won't show up on a kind of dashboard they're going to have. So they'll go in and sort that, and we can sort of also kind of control the messages and how to use it, and the guidance through this, which will then hopefully as well, by spreading the word, being more used, get the message out to other users as well, that, you know, please check your license, please look at your geolocation, which I know are some of the issues that have been raised by a number of recording schemes. So it's something we're still working on, and as I say, you know, 48,000 people have affiliated to iNaturalist UK the last couple of years. So, you know, it's a growing network. We need to embrace it, but we need to also be working with it to make sure that the data that's coming through is of as best value as possible. And on that, just slightly aside, just mention that we're working with Exeter University, who are going to be looking at the observation data as a whole, and kind of just seeing where it is, and how many records are licensed, not licensed proportions, and how we can get some useful data from that. So that's also going on. So it will give us a clearer picture of its use and what the data quality is like.
Thank you.
Okay, couple of other bits in the chat. Ellen Wilson asked if there's a link we can use to join up as an individual member. Thank you, Ellen. Gisella's dropped that into chat, so for anybody else who's interested, you can follow the link in there. And a very nice little comment from Nick Fraser. Thank you. If we can make data work as hard for nature as your team does for the membership, then nature will be in great shape. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Well, given that that's the conversations in the chat, I mean, feel free to unmute if you would like to ask something in person. Ask or make a comment.
Can you hear me, Lisa?
Yes, I can, Michael.
Just to follow on from, I asked the question about the sort of worldwide adoption of the Atlas, and when I was involved some years ago, the NBN was leading the charge. I wonder how much you are still involved in consulting and helping other countries to develop their atlases. And then secondly, whether all these 20 countries are adding their data into GBIF in the way that we would like.
Yes, I would say that we have not been as active since that setting up period in terms of collaborating with international partners. And part of that was the situation we were in with GBIF, and not being a full voting member of GBIF, which really is now where a lot of that conversation takes place. So I think previously a lot of it was taking place via and through the ALA. Now a lot of the conversation around the international community is through GBIF, and in fact GBIF employs someone to look after the community of living atlases. So I know our developers have been strengthening the link with the GBIF team over the last couple of years, and I've also been seeking to strengthen the relationship with the ALA. But with the enlarged data team, thanks to the Accelerator project, that will make a big difference, because those of you who know Sophie, what an incredible person, and we had her on the team for 6 years doing both the day-to-day data management and that more strategic engagement. But it's a huge job, and it did limit our ability to engage outwardly. We are still by far the largest instance, by far the largest living atlas based on the ALA, more than double the size of the Atlas of Living Australia, which is the next largest. And so I feel that we still have something to offer. Actually, we have a lot to gain from working more closely with our international colleagues, but we also have something to offer, because as their atlases grow, they may go through some of the pains that we have gone through with our atlas.
Lovely, thank you very much.
Then another question from Adam Rowe. Thanks, Adam. The page that we have on the NBN Trust website, which is Record Wildlife, a fun way to help nature. Adam says this page does seem to slightly favour iNaturalist and doesn't mention the new AI in iRecord app, which uses OBS Identify. I'll start by saying we did work with BRC, Biological Records Centre, on pulling this information together on the page, but we probably haven't updated it since we made that page live a couple of years ago. So I didn't know about this new AI in iRecord, so that I'm sure is something that we can add in. Don't know whether Lisa or Giselle wants to say anything else.
No, just agree with you. That's something we can easily update, and we can also, road test the wording in terms, as we said, not favouring one over the other.
Yeah, can I just chip in as ask the question? It's only a marginal. There seemed to be a little bit more enthusiasm around the INAT entry, but that's not surprising as you're sort of championing it. But the advantage to OBS Identify over iNaturalist and Seek is that the database is Northwest European and comes up with much better answers, closer answers, which are less likely to be causing problems or causing the verifiers to sort of spit their tea out across their laptops when they're verifying. So that's why it's proving useful for those of us who are already iRecord sort of fans and users. Plus, obviously, I think the licensing issues in INAT need to be given a bit more prominence from the get-go, so that every user who reads about it for the first time is encouraged to share their data rather than let it stay in a silo.
Yes, indeed. No, I think the development of AI on iRecord is really exciting, and I definitely need to go out and give that a test. Yeah, Giselle, do you want to add anything for Adam?
Just to say, with regard to the licensing, it was a question we asked from the very start before we took it on. Can we ask to change the default? And the answer is no. So the default is as it is. So we've got to work, all of us, to kind of, if you're talking to anyone about iNaturalist, it's just to say, change your settings. It doesn't help as well that the current app for Apple iOS users doesn't allow you within the app to change your license either. You have to go to the website, which gives another step. There is a new app in development, which, hot off the press from last night, is going to be going to testing to a few people in the next few weeks. So I'll be one of the ones looking at that. So one of the things I'm going to look at is how easy it is to do the license, and hoping that we can sort of influence that, because it's something that has been raised continuously, and it's something we want. But
as an iOS user, I haven't been able to change my license and I haven't taken the
You can do
time
it on the website.
Yeah,
It's
I
just-
need to go on the website, but I don't use it very much. I use it to
No,
see
and
how
that-
it works. Keep tabs on it. But
Yeah.
no, I think even in your piece on the website, if you're going to refresh that to maybe to include the also identify references in iRecord, I would be tempted just to mention the licensing issue right from the first introduction of iNaturalist on your website, to be honest, because
Yeah,
it
we've got
prevents
it-
records going through for expert verification.
Yeah, we've got it in other places, but we can always link. You should say it's good to look at this again and link to the right
you.
places. And
Good stuff. Thank you.
It's something I feel really strongly about as well, Adam, because I feel it undermines iNaturalist globally, their mission. Their first thing on their website is you collect data, it goes to the experts, goes to the scientists or whatever, and it can't, even if it can't be used, then they're not doing what they say. So it is something we continue to raise.
Yeah, and it doesn't go to lurks for local usage either. I know obviously there's the old lurk and NBN Atlas thing, but we can't pick it up going via iRecord. It doesn't go via iRecord unless it's got an open license.
Okay, question from Roger Dickey. Could you explain your relationship with the County Environmental Records Committees, please? Or is a relationship found in other regional data collection organisations?
Yeah, so we have a relationship with the local environmental record centres. We on several levels. So we work at a national level. We meet monthly with the Association of Local Environmental Record Centres, because the record centres are a key partner and, like us, a really important bit of the data sharing infrastructure within the UK. And like us, ALERC have ambitions to drive through changes to improve the flow of data across the UK. So we meet monthly with the Association of Local Environmental Record Centres, and then we also engage individually with many of the record centres, some of which are data providers, some are not. And we know that one of the barriers to wider data sharing, two-way data sharing with the record centres, is that there isn't access controls on the NBN Atlas. So data providers are not able to select the public resolution of records that they share on the NBN Atlas and then to manage access to the higher resolution records. And that's one of the first things that we're going to be rolling out under the Accelerator project is the introduction of access controls, which we hope will open the door to greater sharing with data sharing with the lurks. Has that answered your question, Roger?
Yes,
if not, do please.
Yes, thank you. I was just trying to establish where they sit in the scheme of things.
I mean, it's worth saying that in Scotland, because of the Better Biodiversity Data Project, we're working much more closely with the lurks, and where there isn't a lurk, with the local voluntary recording groups, to try and improve consistency and sort of join up the lurks so that we can more easily get a Scottish national picture of biodiversity.
Thanks very much.
There's a question that Giselle's answered, but just for information for the rest of the group. If anybody's interested in any wording about why people should change their licensing in iNaturalist that can be shared with other wildlife group members or FAQs, then Giselle has dropped a link to that into the chat. So thanks for that question, Alex. And that's it up to now.
Okay, any more burning questions or issues?
Could I have another go, please?
Of course.
Yes. I sent this earlier. I do think it's really important that we have a staging site for Atlas data, and I believe this has been tried. I spoke with Will earlier, but it didn't work. The reason is because at the moment, when I submit data to the Atlas, it appears fairly well straight away, but in an unindexed form. and gradually indexes get added. But in the meantime, it's in a funny state, and there's no test stage. So if I've made a mistake, which I did last time, and I put my hand up to that, then everybody can see the rubbish data, and there isn't a way to recall it and then resubmit. The trust's, sorry, the Atlas's role in this is that the indexing process is prone to either get stuck or just take a long time. So records can't be found by Vice County, for example, which is key to our reporting. And we're very keen that iRecord is used as our way of verifying data, but NBN Atlas is used as our way of retrieving data. So that's a staging site for data to say, yes, this is good, we'll release it, and when it's released, it goes to everybody with all its indexes in one hit. Then the second thing would be an issue tracking system for the Atlas, because I keep coming across problems, some minor, some I don't know why they're there. Maybe I've got something wrong, but either way, we need a way of saying this is an issue. Other people can feed into it and say what their experience is. iRecord uses GitHub, which I think is really excellent. It's a very good way of keeping track of everything and cross-referencing between issues. And it can also be used for release control for new releases of Atlas code. So those are my two major recommendations.
Thank you, David. I don't know whether any of the team, whether we've got Helen or Will, whether you'd like to say anything about either or both of those.
Yeah, I should say something. You've raised some very good points actually, David, and I've made some notes here, and we're going to look into what you've just been talking about and see what we can do. I can't give you any answers at the moment because this is the first time I've heard this, but actually, you've raised some good issues there. Yeah, I'll have a look.
Very keen to work with you and explain more about what the issues are.
I kind of understand what you're getting at and understand the need for it actually, and why it would be a good thing to do. Anyway, let's have a think about it and we'll get in contact with you, to discuss it further. In terms of raising issues, well, we do have the forum at the moment. I think that's what people have been using traditionally in the past, but it's probably not, maybe it's not very user friendly. I don't know.
Yes.
It sounds like it's not a very nice thing to be using to raise issues or something. Is that the case, do you think?
It's very, very basic compared to GitHub. With GitHub, if you want to refer to another issue, you just put in a hash and then start typing numbers, and you get a pop-up to show the title of the other issue. Each issue has a status. You can search properly. It's just so much more functional.
It's because it's modern as well, isn't it? Whereas the forums are quite old now, really. They do need replacing. And we are considering other
I'm
systems.
really keen on old things, but there are cases where the ones that are still being developed are better.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks very much, David, for those points. Good.
A couple of probably final comments now as it's 1:30. Is there a comparison available between iRecord and iNatris in terms of data flows, pros and cons, etc.? The page that we spoke about before, I've just put another link into that, but in need of some updating now following our conversation. Yeah, Adam, really useful meeting. Now wondering why we haven't had these for the last 20 plus years. Yes, it's really straightforward and obvious, isn't it? Now we've had one. And Adam also says, please can we reinstate the NBN Atlas steering group, presumably once M is in post?
Yes. Whether we call it the NBN Atlas Steering Group or whether we need different structures to specifically engage in the project, I don't know. But either way, there will be more opportunities to engage in the future of the NBN Atlas and to help us steer it. So yes. Excellent. Shall we call it a day then? It's past. Thank you very much, everyone. Mandy, I think you'll probably send around an email inviting feedback and also reminding everyone of the to-do list that I set for you. But yeah, you can get in touch with us anytime. You know who we are, you know our faces, and we are here for you and for nature. So thank you so much for all your support. It was really great to have a chat with you this afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Giselle.
It was nice to see Michael. Lisa, very quickly, I think it's just
I
staff
think it's
on
just
it.
us now, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know if Mandy mentioned, just because I'm going on leave this afternoon, so I could do with the notes this afternoon. Nature Tech.
Yes.
We've had a formal invite to do a presentation, and iNaturalist. I went blank then about what I'm talking about. What do I do? Yeah, so it's kind of wanting to know whether you're happy for us to go, because I'm sure you'd say yes, but I don't want to say yes and then you say, oh no, we haven't got the project.
No, absolutely.
Because it would be, oh, we're still recording. Has Mandy left and we're still recording?
Oh yes, let's stop that. More according to us, stop recording. There we go.